teaching series. This is lesson number 2. I am going to be doing a complete, as far as I'm capable, Hashem, give me grace, we'll be able to do this, do a complete expository teaching to the best of my ability on the Kabbalistic theology that is in the House of Judah. Now, I'm going to make a couple of quick disclaimers again before I just totally get into this. Let me just say, if people want to buy the book, start to read it. You know, it is a lifetime of learning. I will tell you this. This is what the Torah sages have understood. You can never kind of bottom out on Yahweh Elohim. There is always so much more depth and understanding. So, but it is a lifetime of learning, and along with learning the mysticism, you do need to always be diligent to be continuing to study in the Torah, Tanakh, Old and New Testament, in the Talmud, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, a lot of these writings that are coming back in the New Testament. There's such a huge body of literature, but I would recommend people buy at least the first volume of the Zohar, the new Pritzker edition done by the scholar Daniel Matt. It's excellent, and the notes, the footnotes are really helpful, and it'll help you get an idea of how the sages were talking and transmitting information. So even if you never go on to read the rest of the volumes, which I believe there's about 14 of them, plus a lot of it, it is a lifetime. It's a huge commitment. So you might not feel led to do the whole, 14 volumes, but at least I do think having volume 1 in your library and beginning to read it would be very, very helpful. I'll put on the website that goes along with this teaching series other books that I recommend, and there'll be developing a study guide so that you can follow along pretty linearly. But so it's, like I said, the Kabbalah it really is the official theology of the House of Judah, which is our house, which is, as we're getting reunited, because again, just let me say this in case you got into class and don't really understand. I am a believer in Messiah ben Joseph. I believe that Yeshua, Jesus, is the Messiah for the lost tribes. I see also, and you're going to begin to understand this in the big picture here. This is a very large body of understanding, and part of my whole goal is that I would like to be part of the process, truly, in a very positive energy way, of being part of the reunification of the whole house of Israel. And what we need is to have some tremendous Torah sages who are up to being able to dialogue on some of our differences with the House of Judah. So, and you're never going to do that unless you get fluent in the mystical theology, which is truly the official theology of all Israel. So this is not, to tell you again, I'm not teaching New Age. I'm not teaching Hermetic Kabbalah. I'm not teaching occultic Kabbalah. I'm certainly not teaching Freemasonry Kabbalah. I'm not teaching really and truly from the viewpoint of of especially later Christian mystics, right? I don't consider that really all part and parcel of what is considered orthodox. There's good information. I mean, there's definitely streams of truth in there. But if you want to get, in my opinion, the purest stream, it's going to come right down from those who truly believed and had the big picture of Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh Vavhe, and his whole theology, all right, which is, again, like I stated, is what is the core theology of Kabbalism. All right. Now, I have a live YouTube channel, and I have tons of information, tons of beginner videos. You kind of go with me on my journey, how I starting to wrap my head around this. Now I feel like I'm very organized in my mind, and we're going to go right for it. So we're going to start with, I have identified over 15 archetypes, all right, that are used over and over in our Tanakh, our Bible, our Torah, about, talking about different aspects of the whole of Elohim, the plan of salvation, who the players are, the geography, all these different things. And with the work, and we're going to start with, I'm going to introduce you to what is important. The first level to me of understanding is to understand this whole world that the text is written on, called archetypes, which means that in an archetype, by definition, it means it's the original that has been imitated over and over. So it is the prototype, all right? It is the first. And when the son of Elohim is called the firstborn over all creation, what that's telling you right there, he is the prototype. This is the original archetype of all creation. So it's helpful to understand. And we're going to keep, I'm going to show you how once an archetype has been established, once you understand it, you're in a straight path, you can keep plumbing the depths. And if you come across another teaching or someone else talking about it, and it seems like they're trying to put the round peg in the square hole, if you feel you're confident in the original archetype, then that gives you a standard for judging truth and error. So these archetypes develop into reoccurring motifs, reoccurring symbols, and they're always used reoccurringly in allegory and parable, in a lot of the way the language is used in the text. So I've identified big category, all right? So this is how it works. So you have large headings over category, the Noahide laws or the 10 commandments. Those are just large, like when you you give your large heading, and then you break it down, all right? And then you've got law 1, and then there's all sorts of sub laws or sub things to say about that, all right? That's the same way it is. So there are 15. I'm going to just throw them out there to you. I'm not going to go into depth right now. I'm going to throw them out there. The 15 archetypes that you're most likely going to recognize, because as I start to say, all of these archetypes refer back to the original template, which is the tree of life, which is the Kabbalistic, which is what the symbols, what the Kabbalistic diagram is telling you, especially in a symbol form. And it is the original archetype. And once you understand that, then you can begin to see it all over the word in so many different levels of understanding. So we're going to talk about and learn, because this is all part, this is about learning and retaining. Get wisdom, get understanding, and let it produce a body of knowledge that you can help teach and disseminate, all right, to the nations. So we're going to go over the 5 worlds. So there's big categories of classification in this. There's the 5 worlds: Asiyah, Yetzirah, Bariah, Akalut, Asilut, and Yakira. All right, so we're going to break those down, and you're going to learn what they are. And those are the Hebrew transliteration words, and you'll get there. Then you understand there's 5 soul levels. There's 5, and they all correspond, because this is all a great theology of correspondence. So 5 soul levels corresponds to the 5 worlds, and in each quote-unquote world, there is a level of the soul. That's where it functions, operates, originates. That's where its image, its archetype, origin has started. So we've got the nephesh, would be our lower level, our animal soul, our ruach, our neshama, the chaya, which comes chai, if you know the chai from the word life, and Yehuda. I apologize, I'm going to get better with that. My Hebrew is probably still pretty lame, but stick with it. Hope there's some grace out there. All right. So we're going to learn about those, the 5 soul levels, and that's going to open up so much understanding in the text. Then there's things like the 4 winds and the 4 elements. These are being used over and over, and especially these are used in extra biblical writings, the writings in like the Apocalypses and the Pseudographia, and like Second Esdras is full of these. The 4 elements: earth, water, wind, and fire. What they're talking about. The ancients were brilliant. I've considered them, again, more brilliant than we are. And they knew how the natural world worked, and they knew how the natural world was a mirror of the spiritual world. So we would call this today plasma, gas, liquid, and solid, the 4 states, the 4 platonic states. So, there's nothing new under the sun. The 4 winds, representing 4, are a lot of times compared with 4 archangels. This is a concept. There are 4, like, again, there's in any kind of thing, like an army, there's always the head general, the head guy, and then he's got all these people under him, and they all have kind of names and serves their ranks. the tree of life, the whole heavens, and it operates on the same principle. So you have 4 elements, 4 winds. You have this whole body of understanding that traditionally is called the Merkabah mysticism. And this has always been, in the beginning, I was like, what is this? A very deep understanding, but it is a very deep, esoteric understanding of how Ezekiel's wheels, this is in Ezekiel 1, how the whole heavens and earth function. It's very scientific, actually, and it's very anthropomorphic, as you will find out, because you have things that are animals and bulls and oxen, very anthropomorphic, but at the same time, it's talking about the energies and the soul, how everything's going on. So that's a huge body, and this will help to break it down, make sense to you. And then you have also another body of Kabbalistic understanding that they refer to as the secrets of creation. And this is like the, in the book of Genesis 1, they always say that Ezekiel 1 and Genesis 1 are 2 of the most highly esoterically coded, and with the book of Revelation, I would say. So really you have one in the beginning, the middle, and the end, some of the most esoteric, sod level mysteries in our texts. And so we're going to be able to penetrate and get understanding, get wisdom on that. All right. So there are terms, there's so many terms that are used. There's terms like zer anpin. One of the first ones that's very important to get in your mind and understand what's being referred. Zer anpin. And then erik anpin. Okay. This is all these relate and plug into different parts of the tree of life, different relationships in the tree of life. There's another one called etik. There is Adam Cademan, which again, if you are a Christian, you understand that's the body of Christ. That's that Paul was referring to. Paul, as I said, is a master Kabbalist. He totally understood all of this theology. And then you have Abba and Ima. All right, so these are all, again, we're going to get there. We're going to flush them out. Now, let's just start with the Sephiroth. So now I'm going to start to really go into these, more of these archetypes. The first one is the Sephiroth. These like 10 little circles on a Kabbalistic chart. What do they represent? Well, all of this is very biblical, and as we go along, I will continue to give you the Bible verses and the Hebrew words and concept theologies that plug into this, like where they get it from. All right. So in 1 Chronicles 29:11 is one of the most fundamental Sephirothic verses in the Bible, which you could start to look up, because I will start to give you, we're going to go through each Sephiroth individually, and I'll give you every single code word that I have found under the sun. There's so many of them. And the Hebrew words that correspond to them, verses that do, but let's just read it. It says, yours, O Lord, and we know that's Yav He Vav, that's the Tetragrammaton. So right there, that's a huge, the whole theology in the Tetragrammaton. I mean, books get written about this stuff, all right? So yours, O Yahweh, is the greatness, the power, the glory, the victory, the majesty, indeed, everything that is in the heavens and the earth. Okay, so really I've just listed 7, all right? These refer to the 7, to what is called Zer Anpin, to the 7 lower Sephiroth that is under, you go Keter Chokmah Bina. And then you come into this lower 7, all right? This is called the heavens and the earth. And then it says, all right, yours is the dominion. Dominion is another one, reference. These words are referencing one of the Sephiroth. And it says again, O Yahweh, and you exalt yourself as head over all. Now, if you break that down in the Hebrew, and I plug in each Sephiroth and show you, you'll see there are 10, it just totally laid out the whole tree of life, 10 Sephirothic emanations. And emanations are, they have can be described in so many different ways. They're energies, they're emanations, they are attributes. It's one way in that Yahweh, he wears many hats. We have a very large Elohim, and it takes a lot. I mean, the glory is to talk about Elohim, to show his splendor, all the amazing ways in which he makes himself known to us. And that's what this whole theology is about. So, like I said, it's the official theology, and we're going to flush it out. Now, one of the next largest categories is the letters, the stones of Israel. All right. There's 22 letters. Everybody knows 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And it says alphabet, that the whole creation was made through these 22 letters. And let me just say this. And it's also a dualism thing, because the 22 letters are also 22 numbers. So you have not only a creation, the whole thing, when you get into sacred geometry, you get into this whole creation that is so, I mean, a perfect fractals, that everything, I mean, we'll get into the science of it. It just blows your mind. All right. But we're going to stick with the letters, and we're going to understand, like, one of the most fundamental books or earliest books, says is written by Abraham, is the Sefiroth, which, is a mind bender. But it's really, when you begin to understand the Sephirothic world and the groupings, the classifications that they do, you can begin to understand when they talk about the 3 mothers and the 7 doubles. 3 plus 7 is 10. All right. Now, so you have there again, it's telling you the 10 Sephiroth, all right, which is all involved in manifestation in Yahweh telling us and showing us and being who he is, coming into, all right, fruition in his world. Within this huge category, okay, you hear about these things. I'm sure you see online, especially if you go into the 32 paths. What does that refer to? The 42 names of Elohim, and then the 72 attributes. These are very mathematically, logically put together classifications, or again, ways in which we can know. So the 32 paths is referring to 10 Sephiroth, 3 mothers plus 7 doubles. Now, what's interesting, I'm going to throw this in because, we've got this whole other side. We have the side of good and we have the side of evil. There's 7 doubles. So even though there's 10, there's like a whole shadow world. So how does the text hide that? How does Hasatan hide inside of Yahweh's originally good creation? Well, you're going to learn that. And believe me, our sages, they kept track of him. He's not really a ghost we're going to expose that quote unquote ghost, that demon in the room. All right. So then you have 42 names, which is, it comes from the first 42 letters in the book of creation, in the book of Genesis. All right. So these are all very logical. They're very well established. I'm just wanting, knowledge is power. It's good to know what's being referenced instead of having all sorts of fear and, okay, we're getting away from that. I thought this was a great quote to help people to understand what is being said here. As a carpenter employs tools to build a home, so Elohim utilized the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the alphabet, to form heaven and earth. These letters are the metaphorical wood, stone, nails, counterpost crossbeams of our earthly and spiritual existence. That's why there's so much architectural language also as a motif, because Yahweh is telling you how he has built this whole house, which refers to the whole earthly and spiritual existence that we are in here. And the letters are like the nails, the stones, the fundamental building blocks of it. The DNA, there's no, in science, you know about the DNA, the codes that in their different combinations. Another one, just to end that one, is in the Hebrew, again, the 22 letters. The first 9 letters, Aleph through Tet, so you get it here, they're all correspond, they represent the lower part of Bina. The next 9, Yod through Sadiq, stand for Zer Ampin. And the last 4, Kof through Tav, stand for Malchut. So there again, like, as I said, Zer Ampin, Malchut, you're going to get familiar with these and how what these words are saying, so you can immediately get the correct intellectual mind picture there. Now, another way that they classify, especially the lower 7, is what's called the Zeir Anpin. So one of the other classifications, or we'll say motifs, or we'll use the word archetypes, is this word direction. So in your text, when they're referring to north, south, east, or west, it isn't on the sod level, the hint, so things that are in the north, the hint is Sephirithically, that refers to a place geographically on the Sephiroth called the north, which is Gevera. All right, so this is where you can begin to see where the prophets are in the tree of life geographically. It's fascinating. All right, and then you have up and down. So, and this is why you said things above and things below there. So that in and of itself, all of that makes a complete container. All right, you've got all the points, and I won't go into when we get into going a little more into the geometry, into the math, the science of this. So then you've also, they told you the left pillar and the right pillar and the middle pillar. This is all kind of geographic ways sort of telling you where you are, how everybody's relating to, and I mean everybody in the sense of how all these, how Elohim is relating in his body. My hands are being moving around right now. My mouth is, my gums are bumping, so to speak. My head is moving, but it's all because inside, there's always, and then again, the visible and the invisible. My conscious, my brain is spitting out information, all right? And my hands then are part of the process. These things are all so intimately and intricately related to each other. Another one is metals, all right? And my YouTube, I have a whole series on trying to put the deep ways they were encoding information using metals and the relationship of metals, because they're a physical thing to a large extent, but they're also relating spiritually. Everything has a relationship. It's called the law of correspondence between what's sort of in physicality or visible. It always has a relationship, a direct corresponds to something spiritual. So this is why metals, why there's gold, gold is referred many times to spiritually. You can figure it out from the verse. That sort of has a spiritual application. I was telling you about, apples of gold in dishes of silver. I believe that's how it went. Well, that happens to be a totally Kabbalistic way of talking about Chokmah and Bina and wisdom and understanding, gold, and so how it's classified together and disseminated. So, who knew, right? Next, we're going to go into some of and I'm going to do whole sessions on these, but next we're going to season. So there's a whole way in which the language, because Hebrew language is so, Greek language is very intellectual, and it doesn't sometimes relate to the real world, so to speak. The Hebrews were very smart. They took all the concepts in nature. This is why what Solomon especially did when he had such great wisdom, and he related it to its spiritual correspondence. So if you want to teach on something spiritual, you totally relate it to something in the physical, because our minds, because of sight and smell and all these, we can relate to it. We can make the connection 100% easier. So that's how Hebrew works. So you have summer, winter, spring, and fall. And we know different things happen. They have different, oh my gosh, and this is how, in temperature, you would look how important temperature is, okay? So things that happen in heat versus things that happen in cold. Spring is new life. Obviously, winter is at the end of a season. Obviously everything has run its course and it's in a state of total like rest almost. All right, and then it starts all over again. So cycles, seasons leads into cycles, which leads into time. All right, now time is something very important that a lot of people don't understand. It's one thing to factor in. All right, time only exists, and I'll tell you, the lower 7 Sephiroth, in Zeir Anpin. All right. Now there's 2 ways. Let me say this is disclaimer. So if you are more advanced in your Zeir Anpin is used in 2 ways. Zeir Anpin can refer to the lower 6 Sephiroth, okay, and not include Malchut, the lowest 7, or it can. And usually right now I'm using it with all 7. all right? And then as we progress, we'll break it down, and we can show the difference between heaven and earth. Right now there's like a disconnect. This is the whole point between heaven and earth. We're meant to be united as one. There's a little bit of a disconnect going on. That's the whole point of the bride marrying the bridegroom, and that's all language. That is all archetypal language, motif, symbols to talk about the same, because these are all really the same thing. It's not like Yahweh has a zillion different universe. He's in one unit. We're in one thing with him. All right. Now, so let me just say, so you have time, day and night, morning and evening. Believe me, those refer to Sephiroths too, morning and evening, the left side and the right side. So these are all ways in which information you're expected to just know that. So when you read the verse and it's got the word night in it, or it's got the word day, you know exactly Sephirothically, again, where you are, what you're talking about. All right. This is the really wonderful one called Midos. Okay, the ethical qualities in the Sephiroth. They don't just, again, they're not just energy, so to speak, but they are emanating. What are they emanating? Well, one of the things they're emanating is the ethical quality of Elohim, all right, of God. He's mercy. He's a God of mercy, all right, but he's a God of judgment. But he also he's a God of peace, but he's a God of wisdom, but he's a God of understanding, and he's a God of life. And so these ethical qualities are all very much plugged into the Sephiroth. So they all have, that's why usually when people look at a Sephirothic chart, usually always the very first things, and many of them just contain the ethical quality and the name. So that's why you'll see Chokmah and you'll see wisdom. That's its ethical quality. All right. Or you'll see Tiferet and you'll see beauty. Or you'll see Malchut, which is and you'll see kingdom or something. So these are, this is just the first. That's the first thing really to kind of understand. Hey, color is another one. See, when Noah, it's going to be so exciting. When Noah saw a rainbow, there was so much more going on there than him looking at a pretty little refraction of light in the sky. He and Elohim were having a very deep, very graphic discussion about what had just happened and about the future of mankind. It goes way beyond, all right, just some pretty little colors in the sky that we get to see after rainbow. There's a ton of information that is, because every Sephiroth is related to a color. And we know this, like frequencies, when you get into the concept of light frequencies and light waves. And so, that's why you see white light, which contains all the colors, and then black is an absence of color. Yet at the same time, it's not really. There's it's not like there's really no color there. They've already begun to discover there's like a color. They call it now, for lack of a better word, like negative green, meaning that there is a green, but that's negative, that kind of corresponds, I guess mathematically, I don't know how, to the color green. So they're even beginning to discover how accurate and deep, in a lot of ways, Kabbalah is. So there's 7 colors, but there's 7 doubles, remember? So, and you have black and white, and then the myriads of shades. I mean, I'm an artist, so I'm always enthralled with color. Color just really makes me sing, because it's just such beauty from Yahweh. So I'm going to end this one here, and I'm going to be right back, and we're just going to continue on.